All right, folks, guess where we're at? Casa de Emmanuel, Lou Valino's incredible place. And we're going to break it all down for you. Bob Duffy, the legend that he is, talking Cleveland Indians baseball. But listen, before you step up to the plate, and hopefully you'll be watching it down here with Mr. Duffy and Mr. Valino and the great staff, great food, great camaraderie, you will step up to the plate with a local brewery out of Lisbon, Ohio. They're known as Numbers, and what's on tap? They've got various selections from 304 to 414. So why not support local and, more importantly, root on local hometown hero, the Cleveland Indians, led by New Brighton native Terry Francona, and that's where we go right now with Bob Duffy. Solderbeck is shooting this on my AT&T phone. One of the greatest guys I have met in my time in East Liverpool, and a fantastic basketball coach too. He's retired now from Beaver Local, a wonderful history teacher, and you know how much I love school teachers, especially public school teachers. Now, you got to be 21, of course, but a little Coors Light. I'm not drinking. This is actually his beer. I got a long night ahead of me. But when you think of Bob Duffy, you think of the 33 ingredients that go into Rolling Rock. And I think he could take one swig and tell you what all 33 of those ingredients are. This is the guy that I was saying last night that I wanted to have with me when Terry Francona and the Indians clinched that journey to the World Series, beating Toronto 3-0. Earlier today, I talked to John Parado of FanRag Sports. He was making his way back through customs in Toronto, Canada, and at one time, during his days as a journalist, former sports editor of the Evening Review, and he worked at the Beaver County Times, he worked shoulder to shoulder with John Parado. And for all of you who think I brag on Parado because he's from Beaver County, well, this guy is not from Beaver County. He's across the state line in Columbiana County, but he is a journalist, and he's going to tell you firsthand that for his money, John Parado may be, no, he is the best baseball beat writer in America. True?
That is true. He's a very knowledgeable man about baseball. One of the better ones I've ever read.
Well, listen, for him to say that, that's a compliment, folks. Now listen, talk about the 1948 team that you were actually at a ball game there, Municipal Stadium. That was the last time, 68 years ago, that they won the World Series, the Cleveland Indians. What can you tell me about that team?
It was the fifth game of the series, played on a Sunday. The Indians needed that to win the World Series. Bob Feller, the all-time great Bob Feller, started that game, and the Braves got to him about the fifth or sixth inning. He was out of the game. The pitcher who relieved him was none other than Satchel Paige, who was the first Negro pitcher ever to pitch in a World Series.
Right.
The next day, Cleveland went to Boston and won the World Series. They won the sixth game and the series. The last time they ever won the World Series.
And that, of course, was the then Milwaukee Braves, who would eventually end up in Atlanta with that guy by the name of Henry Aaron, who played in both Milwaukee and Atlanta. When you think of Cleveland Indians baseball, and you were a catcher at East Liverpool High School, you played against Bill Mazeroski, who played upriver a little bit. Was it Cleveland for you as a kid, or were you a Pirates fan? What were you?
It was Cleveland first, because that's where I saw my first major league game. Later on, I went to Forbes Field, and I automatically became a Pittsburgh Pirate fan. But the 48 Indians were unique, and they had a playing manager, Lou Boudreau, who played shortstop and managed the team. It was a great team. They had great pitching: Bob Lemon, Steve Gromek, Early Wynn, Mike Garcia, people like that, and Gene Bearden. Let's not forget him, because he won the playoff game over the Red Sox and put them in the World Series. There was a playoff that year between Cleveland and the Boston Red Sox.
It has been a long time coming. 1997, a one-run lead. It slipped away, as did the Cleveland Indians' storybook season. They lost to Jim Leyland and the Florida Marlins. Terry Francona, the son of Tito, who played here in the 60s, meaning Cleveland, is now the manager, been there since 2013, and yes, he is about ready to embark on a historic journey of his own, taking the Cleveland Indians to the World Series. I want to talk about Tito Francona, and somehow they now call Terry Francona Tito too, We knew him as T growing up, as I've said many times. But what about his dad as a player with guys like Rocky Colavito and them in the 60s in Cleveland? And he played in Cleveland from 64 to 1970.
Being a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, I didn't follow the Indians that much during that time. But he was a great ball player. That was a great outfield in Cleveland. But I did not see any of their games.
I can't believe it. I actually have more statistics than Bob Duffy. That'll never happen again. But I do know this. One year, he was just a few at-bats shy of winning the batting title. And he had that same swing, very sweet, smooth, and he was really a singles hitter who could give you power. His son, because of his legs, knees being bad, he eventually would become a singles hitter. But when he was younger, he was a 5-tool player. He could do it all. But I've said this many times, if he doesn't have the injuries to his knees, I believe he has a double-decade career that could have been a Hall of Fame career. But we know this. Already, too, he broke the curse of the Bambino. That, of course, on the Boston Red Sox for trading away the great Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees. They win their first of two, he and Theo Epstein in 2004, and now he's on the verge of winning another one. There's a lot of great managers out there, but you have to admit, if he gets this one, it seals the deal. He's a Hall of Fame manager.
He's one of the best managers in baseball today and in the past. He's one of the best managers. The way he handles that pitching staff in Cleveland is beyond description.
Well, and by the way, Ryan Merritt, the rookie, gets the win to close out Toronto, a lefty. And the thing that he was talking about, he just went from one reliever to the next, 4 outs, 3 outs, get him in, do your job, and get out. But the thing that Terry Francona is noted for, and we're going to talk more about that in his hometown of New Brighton later tonight, is the fact that he makes it a great environment for players on and off the field. He really understands ball players and what makes them tick, not just between the lines, but outside of baseball, and that seems to really work for him.
He's done this in the last 4 years with Cleveland. He's brought them from practically nothing to the World Series. I think one of the great relievers in baseball is Miller.
Andrew Miller.
He's money in the bank. He comes in the 6th or 7th inning and sets it up for.
Oh, come over here. Come over. Come on. Wait. This is the bartender. Get over it. I got to show you your shirt. Look at this. See what I mean, folks? They got better gear than I do. By the way, Dunham's has it all. Coming in on Saturday, that huge shipment. I like that shirt. And he likes the fact that he brings them Rolling Rock, folks. All right, listen, we talked about Andrew Miller, and he, of course, was acquired in a trade just before the trade deadline, and he's been incredible. His ERA has been just phenomenal, and he has been lights out. But the great thing about him, he can either act as a setup or a closer out of the bullpen. The bullpen, really the best in the American League. But when you think about this team, Michael Brantley, Danny Salazar, Carlos Carrasco, and their catcher, Yan Gomes, and you know a little bit about catching, that's what you did. He lost all these players, and he still found a way to win. That's the big story, Bob.
That's a manager. That's a description of a manager. Someone who can take their players and put them in the right positions and acquire the help they need to be where he is today.
All right. Kenta Maeda will go tonight instead of Clayton Kershaw, and it will be Game 5 at Dodger Stadium, and then they move on to Wrigley Field. They're tied at 2 games apiece. In your opinion, what would be a better matchup? The Cubs are pretty incredible this year with Joe Madden. Dave Roberts, skipper of the Dodgers. What do you think would be a better matchup for Cleveland? Dodgers or Cubs? And we'll end on that note.
Back in April, I said the Cubs would win it all, and the Cubs are close to it. But I think that would be a good matchup for the Indians because, as I said before, they kind of mirror each other in their lineups. There's not a weakness from 1 to 8, and the pitching is pretty equal too. But the big edge of it comes down to the last couple innings, last couple of games. The big edge is Andrew Miller. He's the best I've seen in a long time.
All right, listen, let me tell you how much love I have for Bob Duffy. When I used to roll into this town to do play-by-play, and after 4 quarters of football or basketball, I would stop at this place or one of the wonderful watering holes in this town, and I'd always say, give me a glass of ice with my beer. Why? because of this man. The Iceman cometh. He, of course, is Bob Duffy. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go Indians. And remember, this is the place, Ohio, no place else. He'll be here. He can give you play-by-play as it's happening. Watch the Tribe come alive, the Fall Classic 2016 at Lou Valino's Casa de Emmanuel. Ciao, everybody.